Hello everybody and welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Adriana and I love plants. And today I wanted to talk about passive hydro, also commonly known as semi-hydro. I believe, if I have my information correct, that passive hydro is actually a correct term, but lots of people call it semi-hydro, myself included, because in my opinion, semi-hydro just flows off the tongue a lot easier than passive hydro. So, semi-hydro is what I'm going to be referring to. Let's first start off with the drink of choice for this video. It is a black IPA that my husband brewed. This is Black Days IPA Part 2 because he has brewed a black IPA in the past. It's just a more refined recipe. Don't ask me what he did to it. I believe it's all grain. But if you're unfamiliar with the black IPA, this is honestly, I love hazies, but also I love IPAs because I like stouts, but stouts for me get too sweet. Like I can't handle that. And I love IPAs, and black IPAs just are a combination of a stout and IPA. You get that smooth, creamy coffee roastiness from a stout, but then you get that punch of hops, that contrast of the hops, and it's also very aromatic of the hops, which derives from an IPA. It's just the best of both worlds, in my opinion, a black IPA, and I love drinking them, so I'm super happy that he made one. So how are you guys doing today? Honestly, it's a bittersweet day for me because Chewy, the foster cat that we've had for 2 months, she got adopted. And it's bittersweet because I'm so happy that she found her forever home, and honestly, I think it's a great fit. She's gonna love it there. But you spend so much time with these animals, and like in my case at least, you just can't help falling in love with them. Especially Chew, because I don't know if I've mentioned before, but Chew was 8 years old. She was attacked by a stray, and then she was owner surrendered. I don't know why the owners surrendered her, but I saw that and it just broke my heart, and I knew I had to have her. I needed to save her. And so I pulled her from the Chicago animal shelter, and she came here. And she was so shy, so reserved, but she just has so much love to give once she gets comfortable. And like I said, I'm happy, but I'm sad at the same time. So, cheers to Chewy. Let's just, in the beginning, I know I usually cheers at the end, but we're gonna cheers to Chewy on finding her forever home. And don't be surprised if you find some pictures of Chewy at the end of this video, because I never recorded her on video because she is a shy cat. She doesn't like to be in the limelight. She's a backstage person, but she was just the cutest. Cheers to Chewy. Okay, let's get to talking about plants, which is why you're here. Passive hydro, semi-hydro. What is it? It's just a different method of growing your plants. The most common method, I believe, is soil. But there are other methods that you could grow your plants in, which is semi-hydro. Most common growing method that I have seen is LECA. What is LECA? They're clay balls. LECA stands for something. It's like lightweight, something, clay, something. I can never remember, but I'll write it on the screen so you guys can know. And they're just clay balls. And that's the growing medium that I have chosen. However, I know there are different growing mediums if you want to try semi-hydro, such as perlite, maybe sphagnum moss. I'm not sure. But go ahead and research those if you're interested. And yeah, I just kind of wanted to document my experience with semi-hydro because I just started experimenting with semi-hydro about 2 months ago, and I have to tell you, I've fallen in love with it. Some people use semi-hydro only for propping plants, and some people keep their plants in semi-hydro long term. What I'm talking about today is what I would think is step one. So it's like acclimating your plants to semi-hydro life. What are you going to need? You're going to need your growing medium. In my case, LECA. This is what LECA looks like. You can get LECA if you have an IKEA by you. They have it there. It's called this weird name. I'm not even going to pronounce it. Pet stores, I believe, have LECA. If you have a hydroponic store near you, they probably carry LECA. If not, you can always find it online. LECA. Next, you're going to need an inner pot, or what is known as a net pot. So this is what a net pot looks like. It is just a plastic pot, very much like a nursery pot that has holes in it. If you even wanted, you could use a plain old nursery pot if you want. The important thing is it needs to have holes in it. So nursery pots have holes at the bottom, that's fine. If you're just using semi-hydro to prop plants, I would say stick with the nursery pots, go ahead. But in my limited experience, if you were going semi-hydro long term, I think I would highly suggest these kind of pots, because these kinds of pots just give you a lot more visual access to your plants. You can really see what's happening, that root action. You can see that root action a lot easier. Whereas with a nursery pot, that's all hidden. You don't know what's going on with those roots unless they start growing up the bottom. So I would suggest this kind of pot. Or if you really wanted, if you're crafty and if you're patient, which I am not, you can take like a scalpel or scissors and cut little holes out of a nursery pot that you already have, and boom, you have a net pot. All depends on you and what you want to do. Second, you're going to need an outer pot. So this is the pot, this outer pot is what's going to hold the water. The net pot is what holds the plant with the LECA growing medium. So you're going to want your outer pot to be ceramic or glass, something that is not going to absorb water, and you're going to want your outer pot to not have a hole at the bottom. You know, plant community, we're all about drainage holes. If you have a plant, you need your plant to have a drainage hole, but not with semi-hydro, no. You don't want a drainage hole, because then your water is just going to spill everywhere, and that is no bueno. You don't want that. Lastly, you want Superthrive. I don't know if this is totally necessary, in my honest opinion, but I did buy it because I did research on semi-hydro, and I also watched some plant tubers, and they all used Superthrive. So what I know from Superthrive is just kind of like a fertilizer. It's going to help your plants grow in water. And it has the directions on the back of how much to add to how much water that you have. So just follow the directions as written out. But that's all you need. That's like 4 things, all that you need. Maybe even 3 if you don't want to buy a net pot. 2 if you just have like these kind of ceramic pots laying around. 1 if you don't want to use Superthrive. So I think trying semi-hydroponics is very cost efficient. You don't have to spend a lot of money to try it out, and I would suggest everybody trying it out, because I think science is cool, and I kind of just look at this as science, and I think it's really cool. It fascinates me. Maybe it's not for you, but it fascinates me. Okay, so how does it work? It works through capillary action. So just think like bottom watering. It's the same thing. So you put water, if you have your plant in soil, you put your plant in a watering vessel, you put the water at the bottom, and then the soil is going to soak up that water. It's the same with LECA, perlite, whatever growing medium that you choose. You are putting that LECA or your growing medium into water, and it's going to use capillary action to hydrate your plant and to keep it alive. Whew, that's a lot of talking. That was like a semi-hydro rant. I need a drink. Alright, so now you have all of your, I almost call them ingredients, like we're baking something. We're baking a plant, maybe. You have all your supplies. What do you do from there? Number 1, choose a plant that you want to try in semi-hydro. I would recommend choosing a very common plant. Don't go putting a variegated Monstera Adansonii in semi-hydro for your first time ever. Just don't do that. Don't do it. So I started with a peperomia. It's actually the peperomia that was featured in my Plants I Regret Buying video. I'm going to try and include a screenshot of what that plant looked like in that video, because it is just, it's leaps and bounds. Is that the same? Leaps and bounds? No, leaps and bounds away from what it was then. It's loving this LECA life, I have to tell you. Okay, steps. That's what we're talking about. Step 1, you want to rinse your LECA. So your LECA is clay balls, as I mentioned, and that when it dries, it forms clay dust at the top, and your plants aren't going to like that. So you're going to want to take it, you're going to want to rinse it. Some people leave their LECA in water overnight. I personally just rinse it because I don't plan ahead like that. And I would probably never have anything in LECA if I had to keep it in the water overnight, because I would forget to do it. So I personally just rinse my LECA. So at this point, we're gonna get the LECA that we need, overestimate, because you'll probably always need more. And if you don't, you can always reuse it. And then we're gonna rinse it. You're gonna wanna rinse it over a bowl, because over time, the dust that comes off of the LECA can cause issues with your plumbing. Like I said, some people do rinse this overnight, but I just wash it out like this because I'm lazy. But look at all that grossness. Like, you don't want that going in your drain. Just toss it outside. It's nasty. Okay. Next, you're going to want to take the plant that you have chosen, and you're going to want to remove all of the soil from the roots very gently. You know, we're not trying to destroy our roots, but, you know, just take your time, take that soil, take them away from the roots, and once the soil is mostly removed from the roots, you're going to want to take it over to your sink, and you're just going to want to give it a good rinse. Make sure that the water is like medium temperature. It's room temperature. Don't use hot water. Don't use really cold water. Try to get your water at room temperature, and just get the rest of that soil off. You don't need to be perfect. You really don't. However, it is important to take the soil off of the roots, because what's going to happen if you leave that soil on your roots, eventually that can cause root rot, because that soil is just going to retain the water that your plant's in, and it's going to rot your roots. So this is a pretty important step, but don't beat yourself up over it. You don't have to be perfect. Make sure that 90% of that soil, 95% of that soil is removed from the roots, and then we can go on to the next step. Now, you're just going to want to plant your plant in LECA, and it's just like planting it in soil. You're going to want to take your net pot, you're going to want to put some of the LECA on the bottom, just a little bit, and then you're going to put your plant in there. You can't see it, but I put it down there. Plant in there, and then you're just going to want to, how you would with soil, start putting the LECA in there. Like, shake it to make sure that it's completely covered, don't have any holes, and make sure it's stable. But it's just like planting a plant in soil. You're just using a different medium. So if you plant a plant in soil, you can plant a plant in LECA. I believe in you. You can do it. This is where you take your net pot that you want to use, and then your outer pot. I've really been liking these clear outer pots lately. They're just leftover containers from takeout, because they're clear, and you can like kind of, it's a little dirty. You can kind of clearly see where your water is, so you always know when to refill it. I find that helpful. So just take your LECA, and just like you would with soil, put a little bit in there. With LECA, you just kind of want to make sure all of the LECA balls are evenly distributed. So you want want to swish them around like that. Okay, I think that's good enough. But just like with soil, you can just always adjust. And take, I do think I'll put a little more in there. Okay, that's good. You're just gonna top fill. I like to use my hands. You can use whatever you want. I just find my hands to be the best way. Nope, that one fell over. Ooh, I might have to redo that one. Okay, I redid it. It's looking great. And now I just like to rinse it one more time, just gently. This is where Superthrive comes in. So you're gonna mix Superthrive with water. Some people check the pH of their water before doing this. I do not, because I didn't want to have to buy something else. But I use rainwater for my, well, I use rainwater for everything. I water my plants with rainwater, and I have used rainwater for this semi-hydro method. But, you know, use whatever water that you usually water your plants with. If your plants love it, just stick with it. But for me, that's rainwater. So now you have your nutrients mixed up, your Superthrive and your water. You have your pot planted in the LECA. So all you're gonna do, take your outer pot. I know this isn't the right size, but this is just for demonstration purposes. Take your newly planted pot in LECA and you're gonna place it in your outer pot. And then what you're gonna do, you are going to fill your nutrient water about 1/3 of the way up. So this is important because you don't want to fill the water all the way up to the top of this part. You're just gonna rot your plant because it's gonna be sitting in water, and plants don't like that. Usually that's what causes root rot. So about 1/3 of the way, a really neat trick that Adam from Not Dude. So what he suggests taking another net pot, or before you even plant it, filling up your net pot 1/3 of the way with LECA, placing it in the outer pot that you want to use, and then filling it up with nutrients just to the point where the water is sitting on top of the LECA. And then take it out, and then that's your water line. You want to keep your water at 1/3 of the way at all times. If you don't do that, you risk your plant dying from dehydration, because if all the water evaporates, because that's what water does, then your plant isn't going to get the moisture it needs, and it's going to die. So just keep that in mind. Okay, now for your outer pot. Like I said, I like to use clear, but if you're not using a clear outer pot, what you can do is you can pre-fill a net pot with some LECA that's 1/3 of the way up, and then all you do is you place it in your net pot that might not be clear, and then you fill it with your Superthrive. Mine is pre-mixed. Just in here, just follow the directions on the back. And as you fill it, you'll see how much, because the water should just lay on that top layer of LECA. And then you take that out, and that's your fill line. You're going to want to keep it at that much. That's 1/3. Then place your planted net pot in there. There you go. That's how you do it. Not complicated at all. And then, so once you have that done, just keep an eye on it, because water evaporates, and so the water level is going to go down. And once that happens, you're going to want to top off the water with just plain water. No nutrients added, no fertilizer added, Nothing, just plain water. So when I refill, I just use plain rainwater. That's all I do. And you're gonna wanna consistently keep that water level at a third. After a couple weeks, you're gonna start to notice that the LECA is gonna get some white powdery stuff on it, and you're gonna be like, what is that? That's salt. That's just like extra like salt and other stuff, very scientific, I know, like settling on the LECA balls. And when that happens, you're gonna wanna do what's called a rinse day. You're gonna take your plant to the sink, take it out, if I can grab it, take it out of its outer pot, and just rinse it off with water so that the white stuff on the top just dissolves. And then when you have your rinse day, that's when you're gonna want to dump whatever water that you have in this outer pot and completely refill it with your Superthrive water. And then it's just like wash, rinse, repeat. And that's pretty much it. That's like step one of acclimating your plants into LECA. I think it's really easy. I had a lot of fun doing it, and I love it. I do, because what I like to do with my plants in summer gets me a little nervous, because even though like spring, summer is the growing season, this is my first season using rainwater. Before, I would just use my water that I would get from my faucet. So when I would water, I would be able to completely like take my sprayer and like soak the plant and water it at the same time. But now with rainwater, I can't do that. But with LECA, when I do my rinse days, I get to spray down my entire plant. And the reason I like to spray down the entire plant is because it really helps prevent it against pests, because you're like washing your plant, which can get rid of any pests that are on there. Ideally, like some pests probably can stick on there, but it's a nice preventative measure to use to lower your risk of getting a pest. Another thing I like about LECA is that it's reusable. Soil to a certain point is not. Like, soil has nutrients, and after a certain point, all the nutrients in the soil is just gone. Like, your plant used it up, it sucked it all up. So you have to throw that soil away. Not with LECA. All you have to do is sanitize it, which is boil it. And then you are ready to reuse it for another plant, which I think is awesome. Very much more eco-friendly, although soil is eco-friendly. I just like stuff that can be reused. I don't know how eco-friendly it is, to be honest with you. I don't know. But I like it. I think that's a bonus. That is step one of semi-hydro. There is a step two. So step two is more after you have had your plants acclimated. Now it's like long haul. You want your plants for the long haul, because while Superthrive is good for helping your plants grow, your plant cannot live off of Superthrive and water alone. What soil is, which I mentioned, is soil has nutrients in it, and it helps feed and grow the plant. If you're growing your plant in water and Superthrive alone, it's eventually going to decline, because Superthrive has no nutrients in it. You need to add nutrients to your water for your plant to live, which is the next step. I'm not going to really talk about that, because today is the first day that I mixed up the nutrients that plants need and added them to all of my plants in semi-hydro. So I'm not going to talk about that yet, because I haven't experienced yet. We're going to see what happens. That'll be another video. But to close out this one, I just want to show you some of the plants that I have in semi-hydro that are really just doing great. Okay, I mentioned this is the peperomia. Let me put it right in front of me. This is the peperomia, peperomia obtusifolia variegata. This peperomia was in my Plants I Regret Buying video, and it has just like thrived in LECA. I started LECA with this plant because this plant was doing so poorly in soil. I was like, what do I have to lose? I'll just try LECA and see how it does. And this plant is saying thank you to me right now. It even has a new leaf, a new little baby leaf right there. So cute. I'm so happy that this plant is doing so well in LECA. Okay, next we have, oh, I always get confused with the name. I think this is a Pothos Pearls and Jade. It's Sun and Joy. I honestly have trouble telling the difference between the two, but this one I was propping in water for the longest time, and it wasn't doing anything. It wasn't growing any roots. It actually had like the teeniest, tiniest, smallest root, and that's it. And that's all it was doing. So because of that, again, perfect candidate to experiment with LECA, and it's done so well. It has grown so much. Let's not unpot it. Bragging too much. And it even has 2 new growth points right here, and you can see like the roots down here are just going crazy. Another beginner tip, which I found very useful, is to replace like an outer pot like this. While this is very pretty, replace it with something that you can see through, because this really allows you to see your water level clearly. And it is, at least in my case, it was a reminder like, oh yeah, this plant is in LECA. You need to top off that water every couple of days. Whereas I have some plants in a pot that looks like this that is not see-through, and sometimes I forget about them because I just assume they're in soil, and so I don't top off the water, and sometimes I get a little thirsty. So I think that's a good beginner tip. Although it doesn't always look the prettiest, I found it really helpful to keep my plants that are newly in semi-hydro in a clear pot like this, just to easily keep track of it. However, one thing to note, if you have a glass like this near a window, there is a chance algae is going to grow in there, because that's just what happens with like sunlight and water. There is an additive that you can put in your water to stop the algae growth, but I just clean my glass every couple days. I don't think that's big of a deal. Last plant, little bit of a different setup. So this is a philodendron burl marks. I like burl marks better, so we're gonna go with burl marks. This is a philodendron burl marks. Again, this was featured in another video. I was growing it in water and then transferred it to semi-hydro. And this is just in a ball jar, a clear ball jar. And then I just fill it 1/3 with water, and it's very easy to see where the water level is at. The only negative with this method is that it's hard. There you go. The LECA balls were uneven. They were like on a slope, and that was bugging me. So now they're more even now. What was I talking about? Rinse days are a little tougher, because when you have your plant in a net pot and you have a rinse day, the water is just gonna like drain through these holes right here. But if you have a plant just in a clear glass like this, it's not gonna rinse through. So what I have to do is I have to take it and go like do one of these and like swirl it with the water, and then rinse it, and then swirl it with the water, and then rinse it. It's a little bit more of a high maintenance kind of thing, but I think it looks cute in this ball jar, so I don't mind doing it. The kitty is sleeping. Ramona is sleeping. She's so cute. I'll try to be quiet. Okay. Thank you for joining me while I talk about semi-hydro. I am so excited. I love soil. I do. I love potting things with my hands. I love the way soil smells, but soil is so messy. It gets everywhere. And not only that, if you have plants in soil, it's kind of inevitable that you're gonna get fungus gnats. And they're a pain in the butt. And I don't like fungus gnats. And one of the pros with semi-hydro is that the chance of you getting fungus gnats in your semi-hydro plants is really significantly lowered. I don't know why, but I read that multiple times. I can't remember why. I can't think of why either. But that's it. I'm really enjoying this LECA life. I'm planning on converting a lot more of my plants to semi-hydro. However, I am just now beginning that step 2. I bought the nutrients. I have added the nutrient water to some of my semi-hydro plants. I'm going to see how they do, because I do want to test it out before I just change every plant to semi-hydro and then later find out that maybe it's not the best method for me. But I would highly suggest that anybody that has been thinking about trying semi-hydro, just go for it. It's so much fun. It's different. It's just fun. I like it. So it gives my approval for right now. I hope to have a video later about the whole nutrient process and how that goes, but for right now, I just have had a lot of experience, with the first stage. So, oh, and I didn't mention, with this first stage, you can keep your plants with the Superthrive in the water for about a month and a half, I would say. They're fine, because that's how they're acclimating. But after that, you're really going to want to put your plants in that step 2 of the nutrients, because they're just going to kind of stagnate because they're not getting nutrients, and that's what they need to grow. That's all I want to say. So cheers. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you next time. Again, don't be surprised if you see lots of Chewy's pictures at the end of this video, because she's cute. Bye.